You and I are in a place, let's call it temporarily Negro land. And in the old days, this one more mountain to climb, one more river to cross, they always referred to the Jordan River in the old days. When you crossed that river, you was going to be in heaven, right? Now, even a Negro preacher haven't realized this. In the old days, crossing that river meant that you would be going into paradise, heaven, or to the promised land. Now, in modern times, it don't mean that. It means that you got to die before that, and you're going to heaven. Think about it. Even the Negro preachers don't know what happened. The black mind had became accustomed to America so much, no matter how they tried, no matter how much the future came, even now, today, right now, they're shooting down black people in the street. It is worse than slavery days, because in slavery days, the police say, don't shoot the nigga, that's all our money. Right? So they didn't shoot you in slavery days. But now there's no more need for you. So they still have those slave laws in place right now. That's what police departments were developed for. We'll bring you the literature next week. They were developed from slave catchers, from the time of slavery. That's what a police department, modern times, was developed for. And they still use it for the same thing, to hinder the progress of black people, to slow down the progress of black and brown peoples, right? And they do not arrest white people unless something go wrong. You know, they had something today in the press that's been in there about, well, they had a warrant to search the man's property down in Natchez, I think of the city in a little while. But where they blew up this big trailer down there. Okay, I'll think of the city in a minute. Now, this guy, someone called the police on him, and they had a warrant to go search his house and to search, the premises. But when they went there, nobody was home, so they knocked a few times, and they looked around, and then they went away. They had probable cause because they had a warrant. If they come to your house, black people, with anything resembling a warrant, they're coming in, they're going to look around. They can't, there's no doubt about that. They're not giving you no warning. They coming in. That's where no knock and stop and frisk came from, that you don't have to knock anymore and say it's the police. If you got a warrant, hey, that's what those battering rams, all that is for. That's for black people. They don't do that to white people, as a general rule. Okay, so they went in. This is the same person's house that blew up something down there. The bomb, I saw the thing went off and blew off half the town, a few months back.
I know there was a gas leak that went off up in Baltimore.
No, this was a gas leak. This was a guy that left that trailer or that old van, big old van, that blew up a few months back. But all right. So anyway, since this one more mountain to climb, one more river to cross, in our psychology, as we move closer to the present, we realize that we're going to get to heaven when we die. We'll get to the promised land. That's what it was about. The promised land when we die. We won't make it this time. Okay, the black preachers and all of us, they still sang the song, but they didn't catch the subtle giving up on environmental reality. Black people at one time gave up on the promised land. And this, like, they gave up on it. And you can see it right there in the song, right? Because dying or the promised land now meant when you die, you go over to that. Crossing the Jordan River didn't mean now going across to freedom in this land, in this world. That's what it meant before, crossing over the Jordan. Now, if somebody say crossed over the Jordan, that means he died. You see what I mean? It didn't mean that before. So that was a certain period in the last century, in the early part of the last century, when the meaning, not the words, changed. That black people lost hope in this world that they're going to cross over into the promised land. In history, when they crossed over the promised land, the only one died was Moses. Moses stayed over on this side, and he never went into the promised land. But his followers went into the promised land. Right? Martin Luther King, one of his last speeches. Eventually, our people will get to the promised land. All right, that's what he's saying. He says longevity has its place. Right? In other words, living a long time has a place. But he said, I may not get there with you, but our people will get to the promised land. That means they're going to be alive when they get there. They're not going to die. Right? This is Martin Luther King. He was saying the original meaning from when he was a child. That's what it meant. Getting to the promised land. You're going to be alive. You're going to, all the slavery, all the shackles, all the prejudices is going to evaporate, and you're going to be in the promised land. And I got shoes, you got shoes, all of God's children, they're going to put on the shoes, and what are they going to do? They're going to walk all over God's heaven. I'm telling you, boy, this was simple but digestible, mentally digestible in the heart, realities of a hopeful future. Okay, it didn't happen. It didn't happen because the slave patrol caught up with us, Congress caught up with us, all of that caught up with us, and every time you try to take a step toward freedom, if you had the Congressional Freedom Act, or whatever they call it, in 1964, they came by the voting right. Then they came back in 65 with another one, and eventually they kept wearing it down until today. They shoot black people today more than they did in the past. Yeah, they used to string up black people on a regular basis, but more black people get shot in modern times than more people got hung back in the day, in those days. Yes, they did, I'm telling you. All right, one more mountain to climb, one more river to cross. So this is what our duty is today, and I want to talk a little bit about it. If you can see right here, Revelation from Egypt to the Americas, Oakland and the American Islamic Revolution. You have up here Imam Jamil Al-Amin, and he's been in prison over 21 years. He's been in prison 21 years now. As of March 16th, he will be in there 21 years. Okay, so that means the last of his last 20 years, he's been in prison. This is an old flyer we had to raise money. This is our brother, Imam Luqman, up in Detroit. I don't want to tell you about all the things surrounding him, but he not only didn't have a fair trial, if he were to get a fair trial now, they've already ruined his life. Okay. Well, and that's a picture of me. Imam Jamil Al-Amin, Imam Luqman, who was assassinated in Detroit, and yours truly right here. We didn't make this up. What this flyer says to me and anybody that look at it, we got your number one homeboy, Jamil Alameen. He's in prison for the rest of his life. The other homeboy, which they are, he's dead. He ain't coming back. And you, nigga, you keep talking that gangster talk, and that's it for you. Here's our response. How to punk the FBI. Y'all ain't nothing but a bunch of punks. Now, you haven't seen no flyer with nothing like this. This is harassing them. They gonna put out stuff about me. I say, oh yeah, you a bunch of punks. Who you messing with? Who the hell you think you talking to? You gonna do something to somebody. That is different. Everybody is scared of J. Edgar Hoover. J. Edgar Hoover might have killed a lot of our friends, but we look at it like it's a new time. There's another thing we look at. We look at it like, okay, here's the reality. The reality is that every time, if we don't stand up, they're going to sell us a bill of goods. Every time they walk by, they got a bill of goods to sell us, something to sell me and you. It won't be freedom. They had our dear brother related, the original developer of the Rainbow Coalition. Our brother Fred Hampton and Mark Clark. Fred Hampton is the one that developed or initiated the Rainbow Coalition. What's the Rainbow Coalition? That was white people that was all involved with other peoples of color, and it's like all the beautiful colors of the rainbow, right? Jesse Jackson come in there, Uncle Jesse. Uncle Jesse came in there. He moved to Chicago. Remember, he was down in Dixie. Yeah. Not that he had the shirt of Martin Luther King with all the blood on it and stuff. That boy is a showman. And that boy is the biggest tattletale you ever seen. And he sold Martin Luther King's legacy for 50 cents. And he came on TV and everywhere else, and he became the so-called unofficial leader of the civil rights. This boy run for president in 86, 84, and again, I think in 88. He wasn't going to get nowhere, but at one time, Coca-Cola, you just give me $5 million for the Rainbow Coalition, which was a lot of money then, and we won't talk about Coca-Cola. And they give him the money. His whole operation was a shakedown the white man. Big white folks for personal money for his Rainbow Coalition. No, that's what he did. Everybody knows that. Messy Jesse. That's what he did. That's what happened to the civil. Why we haven't had nothing? All our leaders was killed in the late 60s and early 70s. Why we have nothing since? Haven't had anything since then. Who have they had since then? They had Messy Jesse and a few more people going around, but they haven't had no Martin Luther Kings, no Malcolm X's, none of those people, because those people were uncompromising. Like Martin Luther King said it himself, he said, if I have to teach nonviolence, if I have to do it alone, by myself, that's what I'm going to do. That's what Martin Luther King said. Why? Because when we opposed the war in Vietnam, all the Negroes said, oh, Lord, you're going to make boss man mad. And I called, after I heard that Martin Luther King, I heard those great speeches, but when I was in Leavenworth and I haven't been able to get it, Martin Luther King gave a speech on Palestine. And it would be the best speech anybody. I heard it in 1976, 75, was in the penitentiary. Because on Sunday they'd had the black stuff on. And this was a lecture of Martin Luther King coming from the black church. But somebody, and go, if you think go around and try to find it. It might be some mentioned about it, but you can't find that lecture today. I haven't been able to find it. Nobody else has been able to find it. He made a talk on Palestine, and oh my goodness, this is the best lecture I ever heard. On Palestine, better than the Palestinians could make, because he's a black preacher. But see, okay, anyway, the promised land again. How to punk the FBI. You just a bunch of punks. You scare everybody else. Now, we're not just talking trash. We're telling you what we've said. This is 2007. We've been here. And we've been waiting, expecting something to come. And this morning we woke up, this is it. We know it's been coming all along. But all of these lectures